So at any rate, yeah, I just dropped by to let you know how much I appreciate the effort you have put into Ward 7. You know all the stuff going on in Ward 7, and that's just amazing. In fact, it's not just Ward 7. You know what's going on the rest of the city. And so that's really important that you keep up with your constituents and what's happening in their ward, and which is my ward, and also your institutional memory. Because I know that you, as a teenager, were down there at City Council. You have the background. You know how the city, what the city's been up to, what the city has done, what they have planned, what they have voted on, and now you're the longest lived council member on the council. Yeah, you. So that's an amazing and important feature of anyone who wants to be of service to the city. You have to know the background. That, as they say, you got to know where the bodies are buried, who stabbed who in the back, who made a deal with who traded votes. I mean, it happens.
And what are the history of these issues?
Exactly.
How long have been talked about?
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's not a requirement, of course, to serve on city council, but if I get reelected in February, I will be the only member of the city council that is actually from Norman, that grew up here and went to Norman Public Schools, that graduated from Norman High School.
Exactly.
Because right now, Lynn Miller and I are the only two members that are from Norman on the council. And with her leaving, if I get
that leaves you.
Right. Now, other members of the council some of them have lived in Norman for a long time, but I would be the only one that actually grew up here, that went to school here, and has lived here almost my entire life. So, and I think, although not a requirement to be on council, I think it's valuable to have at least one person that knows the history of Norman, that's lived it, like
and
I
can articulate it in a very lucid manner, which I've heard you do several times.
Yes.
And that's an important feature.
And if I get reelected, also I will have 6 years total experience on the council, and that'll be 3 years more experience than anybody else on the council as well, including both candidates for mayor. So,
and people are running who haven't got the background. I mean, how are you going to make decisions if you don't know what happened before?
Right.
And so institutional memory is really important.
I think so too, and not having anybody on the council that served more than 2.5 years right now outside of Lynn and Robert and I is, and having all these very big issues that the city's having to deal with right now: transportation, stormwater, affordable housing, and environmental issues that we're dealing with, like reuse, like we were just talking about.
Right.
Having a council that is not as familiar with the history of those issues and how and why we're here right now, I think, could present some challenges if you don't have anybody that's got that experience. So that's partly why I decided to run again, was because I felt like there's got to be somebody that knows the history of these things, and there's just so much going on. I didn't feel like I could walk away.
There are a lot of issues happening, and we need to get them solidified. And I've heard you say that your stormwater is your biggest issue.
Yes.
Well, it's actually my biggest issue, but by George, if there's not a decision soon,